Okay, wait. There we go. Have we got sound? Have we got sound now? Have we got sound? Because right, so this is really ironic. So basically, for the last 2 minutes, then, right, do you want me to turn it up a bit? If it's better, but if it's not perfect, maybe we need to turn it up a bit. But I don't know actually how you turn it up a bit. Oh no, I can turn it up a bit. Might be a bit slow going up though. Let me turn it up by like 3 decibels. I don't know whether that's good or not, but yeah, so it was really ironic because I was just explaining how, wow, we're on and I can see the stream and it's all good and everything's come through fine, and I've not been on a live stream in forever, and you know, I seem to have done it without any hitches, because I'm using my OBS and I'm using the sort of stream encoder software, whatever, you know, on YouTube, that sort of stuff. Not just like a kind of basic setup. And as I say, I've not done that in ages, so I assumed there would be about 16 different problems, but we didn't have any at the start, and then you tell me there's no sound, so, you know, there was obviously going to be one, but that's how it is. So how is everyone doing? Drop a message in the chat if you are there. I'd very much like to hear from you, and we can just have a little chat based on what people are doing, what I'm doing, and yeah, see how things are going. I haven't necessarily like really promoted this stream or anything like that. I did. I basically put something on my community tab, but I don't know how many people will see that because the channel's just not been active at all. I did consider putting something on my Instagram. I could probably put something on it now. I have got a link to my YouTube channel in the bio of my Insta. But yeah, so I just kind of left it up to who's here, and we'll see if we get any viewers or anything like that. But I know a few people are already in, so that's incredible. So thank you for those who are joining me. Yasmin's in the chat as well. Hi there, nice to see you. It has been a very long time since I've done a live stream. I thought that I wanted to do a live stream for like 2 weeks, but the problem is on a Thursday I have a society thing, as you know from the vlogs, and and that society thing is, would you believe it, bang on 6:30. I think I used to do Thursday talks at like 6:30 or 7, so it just means that I couldn't do Thursday talks, and I really wanted to do Thursday talks, and thought, should I miss it 1 week or something like that? And I've considered doing that. I thought maybe either this week or maybe last week I'll miss it, but basically the way things have fallen, I'm probably not going to be doing that, not this week or last week anyway. So yeah, so it's kind of meant, well, what I'll do is I'll do a little live stream now. I'll do one on a different night than Thursday, and then given a few weeks when I'm not going to my society things, I might do a Thursday talks and have a proper live stream like that. But yeah, it's just a shame really with that, because that is I only go to 2 society things, and one of them happens to be bang on the time when I would do Thursday talks. But it is how it is. And I did contemplate doing a kind of thinking like, do I move Thursday, if I want to sort of set it back up, do I move Thursday talks to a Friday and just do a new thing or something like that? But I didn't really want to do that. I wanted to stick with, if I start doing live streams again properly, I wanted to start them on a Thursday really, and do it that way, and have that kind of regular time back. Now, those who are watching, can you tell me, because this was the thing I was a bit concerned by, are there any other, I know I'm not really in the reselling space anymore, but are there any other sort of the channels that I used to watch or go on as live streams and stuff, are there any of those channels that have a live stream on like at this time today or on Thursday, or what's the sort of layout of the land with the reselling channels at the minute, and who's doing live streams? I mean, I don't know whether everyone will be keeping up with the channels or anything like that. I did actually, every now and then I kind of go back to the channels and have a little bit of a look, see what people are doing, and I did see that I don't know whether Zahir has like changed his channel or something like that, or not doing the live streams anymore, the chinwags or whatever they were called. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that anyway, and I don't know, I've not checked Nick's channel in ages, so I don't know at all whether like his Sunday live stream is going. I would assume so. And I know George had a live stream for quite a while, so yeah, so I need to actually just go back and double check the channels and see what's going on. Some people, I know Andrew Monumental is still doing his live streams. I saw one of those pop up the other week. It's unusual really, because although I'm subscribed to these people on YouTube, I don't normally see their live streams and stuff pop up, but once in a blue moon they'll pop up, and I think that's like really odd, but then it makes me understand, oh right, they're still doing the live streams, or they're still doing stuff and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, so I know Andrew is, but well, actually I do know Andrew is still doing reselling as well, because I have him on Instagram and he does he puts posts up on there, so I do know that. And I think I have George on Instagram still as well, so I don't have many people on Instagram from the reselling. I just have, well, probably have about 5 or 6 now still. But yeah, so I need to get clued up with that and see what the times of different live shows are, because I don't really want to be coming in on a time where there's other people going live, because for one, I probably won't get many viewers, but if people want to watch like my one or the other one or something, then it creates like this sense of, well, I wanted to watch that, but I don't want to watch that. I want to watch that, or I want to watch that, but I don't know which one to watch and all that. So, yeah, it'd be good to like just do a live stream like on the time. But I think the Thursday will be okay. I don't think there'll be anything with that that would mean there'll be other live chats. Haven't kept up since. 1 second, I need to move my OBS. Haven't kept up since 2020. Wow. Was just having a coffee and saw you. Right, yeah. So no, well, that's interesting then, because a notification must have come through. I didn't know whether, I was thinking before the live chat whether the whole notification system would be very good. I don't know whether it particularly is, because my channel, as I say, hasn't been active for a long time, so I wouldn't have said that, notifications would go out or anything like that, or it would really come up in your feed as much. Although sometimes what happens is like 10 minutes into the live stream, it starts to get going, and then a couple of people turn up and stuff like that. Sometimes I've had that in the past, actually, a number of times. But no, I'm surprised that you've not kept up since 2020, and that's interesting as well, the timing, because that was the lockdown, wasn't it? So I don't know, maybe whether people, although I would have thought that people would have been online more than, like with the reselling and stuff like that, but that was the time I was kind of getting out of it, so I certainly wasn't looking the same with with the whole reselling thing. Yeah, you had twins. Well, that'll do it. That'll definitely mean that you're not going to be looking online at reselling videos and stuff like that the same. So hopefully it went all right for you and everything, and you're doing all right, and the twins are doing okay. Yeah, I think it's lovely, isn't it? Twins. That would be obviously it would be a lot of work, but it'd be nice as well at the same time. And my daughter. Why is there a little weird, there's a little heart next to that, and I can't see what that, does that say, and my daughter was born or something, or, my daughter born, okay, cool. It's weird, there's like this little heart in the corner, and I can't quite, it cuts off one of the words. Yeah, it's lovely, it's lovely. But yeah, so about 2020 was that crazy year as well, so literally like having twins in 2020 must have been an experience with COVID and all that sort of stuff. That must have been, I mean, I suppose in some way it might have been nice because you have the lockdown, and then you kind of may have got to spend more, I mean, I suppose you're going to spend a lot of time with them anyway, being newborns, but you might have got to spend more time like just with them, maybe without people, like loads of people coming round all the time, you know how it is when, or how I would assume it is when people have a child, you know, we want to all come round all the time, see the babies and stuff. So maybe you got a bit more time, maybe people came round every now and then when we could because of the lockdown, but maybe you got a bit more time just to spend with them. So yeah, there's positives and negatives to it, isn't there really? Yeah, but the lockdown, I was saying to a friend the other day, when was it? Yeah, it was when I was at one of the society things on Thursday, and we were walking back, and he was talking to me about COVID. I don't know how we got onto it, but, well, I was saying to him at first about my experience in uni with it being we had still had the lockdowns and stuff, and also he was saying about his experience with, he travels a lot, so he goes from place to place, and he couldn't really do that. He was kind of, when he had travelled to one place, he had kind of got locked down in that place for quite a while, and then ended up, you know, once it was viable, he could travel again to this other place, or whatever it was. I don't remember exactly, but he said something around the Christmas time, it had gone into lockdown, he couldn't travel or something. But now I'm thinking about it, I don't know, I can't remember what the restrictions exactly were on travel, whether you could or you couldn't. Because I'm talking about travelling in this country, I don't know. I don't think you could. I think at one point you couldn't, could you? You're like, literally you couldn't, you couldn't go from one bubble to another or anything like that. Oh, someone's joined the chat, 1 second, I can't see it because I'm on my OBS. Oh, BCP, hi there BCP. We're just having a random chat tonight at the moment. Thank you very much for joining. I know the notifications might be a bit funny because basically, you know, the channel's not been active for a long time, so maybe if I do more live streams over the next few weeks, it might be better with the notifications and stuff, and things come through a bit more. And I'm going to do a bit more, when I do a live stream as well, I'm going to do a bit more promoting of it, I think, and maybe we'll get a few more people in, get the chat going a bit more. But yeah, so as I was saying, this, I was having a chat with this guy, and yeah, we were saying about the COVID and stuff, and we were also just saying how bizarre a time it was. It was such a crazy experience. Like, when we were in the middle of it, it was completely normal in some sense. Like, it became normal very, very quickly, and there was a surrealness to it that almost was underlying it for the entire time, but there was also a normality that presented itself. And only really looking back, I was saying to him, do we really start to think quite how weird it was, like quite how just surreal and crazy and all that sort of stuff it was. You know, this idea of like just the idea of lockdown, and I'm not really into these kind of very far politicized, not conspiracy theories, but, you know, just sort of perspectives on things, and, you know, how there's some sort of, not an authoritarian conspiracy or something, but just the entire thing was ridiculously authoritarian or whatever, and maybe there was things going on behind the scenes to try and change, I don't know, the collective psychology or something like that at the same time. Yeah, I mean, I get that it was an authoritarian move to a good degree, Whether the lockdown was necessary, I don't know. I have my suspicions. Maybe I feel like perhaps we should have shielded and locked down the highly vulnerable people. Can never say that word. Vulnerable people. Maybe the young people were just, or people who weren't that vulnerable. You just go about your business, but really, really shield those people with all these different underlying conditions. Maybe that would have been better, and maybe it was done in a bit to an authoritarian way. But nonetheless, just the experience in itself was very bizarre. It was a very weird thing, and even down to the thing. What if anything, like looking back, what did feel sort of authoritarian was seeing the Prime Minister come on the screen like every day with the flags behind him and everything, and he just sat there like, and today we're announcing that that, okay, yeah, that definitely, there was definitely an air about that. I mean, yeah, that's weird, but no, it was just a very, very bizarre time, and this is the thing, I don't think like so many people after the fact have completely processed it, like our thoughts and feelings on that 12 months, 18 months, whatever it was. People talk about it in passing still, they say, it wasn't that weird and all that, but I don't think we've like fully understood what the transformation was in that period, psychologically, what the transformation was collectively, socially, what the kind of just general impact on our behaviours were and things like that. It's remarkable, and I've heard a few people at university, because obviously being at university and doing certain things and being in a critical frame of mind, you kind of have certain conversations, and I have had or have been made aware, like by certain conversations, of changes to the younger generation and things like that, how it may have really impacted younger people, not necessarily of even my own age when it was during COVID, which I would have been about 23, 24, but like literally, I don't know, early teenagers or less than that, maybe about early teenagers, I suppose, of how it would affect their development psychologically, because that's if you have like those prolonged lockdowns and stuff, there must be some direct impact on your psychological health from that. Even if you're just going to say, well, it's increased introversion or something like that, it's really it's difficult, and maybe that's put us in a worse position with all the other things we have at the moment that are making it very, very difficult for young people to live and to navigate through the world. And I don't really think this idea of this convenient consumerism is very good. I feel like we've sort of propagated consumerism over the past 30 or 40 years, and we've got to a place where physical skill is degenerating. I don't have the same physical skills as my dad. My dad doesn't have the same physical skills as his dad. Whether that's DIY skills or crafting things or things like that, and we've traded those things for a degenerate state of mind that is purely absorbed in comfort and the comfort comes from the convenience of basically consumerism and all these incredible ways in which you can spend your money on things that mean you don't have to do as much, and that's a really bad situation for a species, because obviously you can imagine, like, transgenerationally, if you have a skill deficit like that, a skill gap like that, well, you can't sustain a species. It won't happen. and that's what we're really seeing at the moment. But of course, there's a conflation or a unity or a moving in of about 6 or 7 major different things to degenerate the West, and in particular the West, but also the globe as a whole to some degree, and that is a very bad situation to be in at the moment, and we really need to open up our consciousness and strengthen our will and our spirit to be able to get over that. And we're all in the same situation. Everyone like my generation or a younger generation. I mean, I think I'm actually on the cusp of generation Gen Z, because I was 96 and I think Gen Z is 95. But you know, the Gen Z or I don't know what the new one's called or whatever. Well, I suppose it's Gen Z anyway. But I think there's another one after that coming up now. But you know, people my age and younger, and coming up now in the teenage years and stuff like that, are all in this same position of all being conditioned to have a lower degree of spirit and less ego strength and less relationship with a strong level of homeostasis, like people 2 or 3 generations ago actually had. And if we don't gain back that sense of strength of spirit and homeostasis, we're going to degenerate as a culture, and the West is gonna fall basically. So I don't like that position in particular, and I think things like COVID, you know, I mean, almost, shall we say, an act of God, or maybe not an act of God, maybe something manufactured if you want to go down that conspiracy theory or whatever, but just something that's come about by happenstance as worsened things as well, which is just sad. But anyway, that's that. So it is how it is. So I will not dampen the mood too much with all that sort of stuff, but there's a lot of that on my mind at the minute with so many different things going on, and also just generally such a lack of love in the world, and a lack of compassion, and a lack of trying to understand one another. That's a real point of sadness as well. We can't seem to understand each other and get along with each other, and that's not a particularly good thing. But you know, so I suppose what I'll do is update you very briefly on university. I know I kind of do that in the vlogs, but I will tell you some stuff slightly different from the vlogs. So at the moment, as of this point, if you see the vlogs, the point where in the vlogs will be probably a bit different. But I am currently just about to start the dissertation, and I will give you a sneak peek into some of the ideas that I'm considering with the dissertation that I will not be saying on the vlogs, or at least I won't be saying on the vlogs in the next week or 2 weeks or so. I am thinking for my dissertation of doing short stories, which you know, and I'm going to be doing this interesting play of, this is my hope anyway, to weave into a narrative, into a short story. And tell me what you think about this as well, because it's an interesting one, but it's a difficult one at the same. Now, it's nothing original. It's been done before, of course, this theme and stuff. But the idea is that I weave into a narrative sort of daydreams or dreams of different characters that they're having. And then we go from sort of some sense of reality to almost, dream reality, shall we say. And then we come back into the narrative. So whether this is like a character talking about their dreams to another character, or whether it kind of just inserts itself into the narrative, if you understand what I mean, where you kind of like, you're taken out of the narrative and then you immerse back in. I don't know, maybe a bit of both. But then, this is an interesting point. So we do that with, a particular situation, particular characters. I am going to focus quite heavily on character and on weird characters or eccentric characters or spiritual characters in some sense as well. And that will kind of lay this sort of foundation for why perhaps these dreams or daydreams might come into the narrative through those characters. So that gives a bit of a kind of basis, because if you've got an eccentric character, they're probably going to be more prone to that sort of stuff than, let's say, just a non-eccentric character. So we'll do that, but then I also want to try and find a way, and this is going to be so difficult because I really don't know how to do this. I'm going to try and find a way to put in magical elements into the story, like, not supernatural, well, kind of supernatural, but it depends on, I suppose, how you define in that phrase, but some sort of like magical element, but I don't know how to describe it, but some sort of magical things, talking animals or something like, all that sort of stuff. So put those into the narrative if I can. I don't know whether I'll be able to do this. It's such a difficult thing, but Shazad's in. Hi there, Shazad. How you doing? Hey, it's nice to have. We've had a few of the regulars in. That's nice. I'm glad we've had the regulars in. So weave in what was that meant? Magical elements. But I want to do that so I weave into the narrative through these characters the dreams and the daydreams, but I also weave in magical elements like talking animals and things like. So how, so I don't know, because I also want to unify this as a narrative and actually make the magical elements relate to the daydreams or the dreams. So it's going to be really difficult if I try and do the entire thing. Whereas maybe if I focus more on one area, like just the daydreams and the dreams, or just the magical elements, it might do better. But I want to create something that's a bit, a bit more varied, a bit more, something with a bit more substance, a bit more depth, rather than just doing. If you do, we've kind of been, let's say, directed away from just doing something that is within one genre, is within like a genre such as high fantasy or magical realism or surrealism or something like that. So if you do something in just like one genre in a very stereotypical way, you're probably not going to get marked well or good on it. Now, obviously that doesn't mean the piece is bad necessarily. What it means is that they're not looking for you to just do something in a conventional style within one genre. So if I want to try to get the best mark I can, I do need to add in something extra. So magical realism, which is the genre that places magical, fantastical elements in the everyday. So maybe you go into Subway and you're getting a sandwich, but suddenly a talking gnome pops up from out the bush. That would be magical realism, because you've got a magical element in the everyday situation. Quite a cool genre, actually. So if I were to do something solely in magical realism that's quite sort of samey, that's been done before in a certain sort of style, it wouldn't get me very good marks. So I am going to have to push the boat out a little bit and see what I can do, which is very exciting, but it's also very challenging, because the first short story I wrote was about 10 weeks ago. I never wrote a short story before then, and yet I'm choosing to do short stories for my master's dissertation. I do pick my battles, like on it throughout my entire life. I go into things with so many things in my life I've gone into with like hardly any experience and making total risks, whether that's like investing or, degrees and things like that. Like maybe on my bachelor's I took a bit of a consideration. For my master's, I chose to do creative writing because I looked at the degree and I just had an overwhelming sense of emotion and thought, yeah, I'm doing that. And it was that impulsive. I didn't, I'd wrote poetry for a bit and stuff, but that was about it, So I didn't like go through the course thing like in real detail and be like, yes, this is all right, and this is, I just go for it. So it's really, so I put myself in these tricky situations, and it's not the best, but also it somehow just about pays off, because I generally am quite applied. I can work, I can push through, but I really, for the next thing I do, I am going to be more considered. I definitely am, because it's not a good thing. Daniel joined the chat a few minutes ago. Good evening. It's nice to see you doing well. Have you been to see the Lions? Is that near me then, the Lions? Is that some sort of football thing, or... Because I'm wondering whether... I guess you know that I am in North Wales, so I wonder whether that's something near me. Let me know in the chat anyway. But it sounds like something like a... I was going to say it was a pub or something like that, but it sounds more like a sports club type thing. But you know me, I'm not into sports much. I really want to watch football. I do. Oh, hang on. No, it's the ones under the Britannia Bridge. The one. What ones? Let me Google it. Yeah, but it is football. I've always wanted to do football. This is like watch football, but like every time I do, I go back and forth on it. What is it? Stone Lions. Have you been to see the stone? Oh, is it statues? I think it might be statues. Oh, I've never seen them. You know what? I could go there and actually vlog it. Because Britannia Bridge isn't too far from me, I don't think. Hang on, let's see. Yeah, I mean, it is a bit of a walk, to be honest. It's probably... hang on, can I get up the... I can't get up the time on here. Well, I mean, it's only a slightly longer walk. It's not... I could still do it, so, yeah. No, I'll have to... The beard is looking good. Thank you very much. No, nothing to do... It really sounds like football, though. It really sounds like football. And honestly, I want to know what the offside rule is. Because I have been taught this before, I swear, by one of my friends. Because my best friends both absolutely love football. And I love playing it. I love going in goal. I just can do goal. I'm there. Do. And then, like... You can't see me, but I'm kicking up like that, like boom, and getting it out like that. I've loved it for years doing that. But I don't know the offside rule, and whenever I watch football, I'm always like back and forth on it, whether I actually like it or not. Like some games, I'm like, whoa, that was really good, and then other games, I'm like, it's not good. Well, I suppose that's how it is anyway. But I still don't feel like I'm really into it, if you know what I mean. So, but I want to know the offside rule, because I actually want to know what that... Because people explain it and then we say it, and I'm like, but that makes no sense. It doesn't make... It's like, so there's like a player here and a player here, and if the player here goes over here, then it's offside, and then it means the goal isn't going to be a goal. I'm like, what? That doesn't make any sense. But maybe it does make sense, but I just can't get it through my brain, It's crazy. It's like, it's really weird. It's really weird, but... yeah, so I will check out those Lions then. You know what? I want to actually go on... if I go on Google Maps, if I actually go on Google Maps, maybe it'll tell me... I wasn't properly on Google Maps. It'll tell me the distance, you see. It is a fair... It looks like it's longer than Tesco, and Tesco is a fair walk. Yeah, it's longer than Tesco. Ooh, God, yeah, it's a bit longer than Tesco. But we will see. Britannia Bridge... Bridge. Oh yeah, if you have any questions, by the way, drop them in the chat. I've not got anything else to talk about, so you know, I'm literally just rambling. Like I've just come on live just to have a chat, basically. So, let's put from the university, because that's basically near me, basically right near me. Bangor University parking lot. Okay, how much is it? It's 1 hour and 10 minutes walking, so 2 hours 20 back. So it's a reasonable walk, but I could do it. Oh, you actually go over to... Oh, no, wait, that's not the Lions. But... Yeah, actually, hang on. Do you go over to Anglesey, or is it on the other side of the bridge? I mean, it wouldn't really matter, would it, when I'm there? I mean, I just walk across it, it's fine, but... it's giving me on Google Maps that I go across the bridge, but that isn't to the Lions, that's just to Britannia Bridge. Maybe, I guess, if the Lions on the bridge, there'd be maybe 2 on one side and then 2 on the other, something like that. It's probably like that. Yeah, but I actually want to go up to Tesco. I said in a recent vlog, the vlog I did like yesterday, which you won't see for about a week, by the way, because I'm about a week behind. I was saying that I want to go to Tesco, so if I could walk to Tesco and then walk to there, but that I might be actually going out of my way more then. It might be worth doing the 2 on separate days or something like that, I'm not sure, but depends on if there's like a nice route through from Tesco that way, but we'll see. I don't know. You can go through Treborth. Okay, let me see. There, yeah, okay, cool. Okay. What, is that from... Is that walking, like, from my place to Britannia Bridge? From, like, Bangor City Centre? Or you mean from Tesco? Seems like that message would have come through before I said the Tesco thing, so maybe from Bangor Central, City Centre. Q, how is the Lego investing going? You know what? That's something that I have neglected a lot over university. So, I accumulated the Lego before I went to university, or I think I bought a little bit more of it when I was in my first year of uni, and and then I've just left it from then, and I've come back, and in fact the last like 2 or 3 years I've not even really gone back fully over summer. I've just gone back because I've generally done it where I have contracts, where it's just like constant contracts. So normally I'd go back for like a week or 2 weeks one time in summer, and then come back here, and then go back for another 1 week, 2 weeks. So I didn't do any selling of it in that time or anything like that. Didn't do any real accumulation. And also the other thing is, other than maybe updating my little, I suppose my idea, I was going to say like a spreadsheet, but I don't know if I still have a proper spreadsheet for it, but other than updating like an idea of a figure of how much it's worth, very loosely, I've not done anything. But what I do know is that Lego investing is not the same. Like from the little understanding that I've had from doing the, totting up the prices and stuff, it doesn't seem like this stuff is going up the same as years ago. Like when I first started doing, maybe even buying Lego to resell and stuff, it was way better. And then even when I was like investing for the first 2 or 3 years, it seemed to be better. It doesn't seem to be the same now for some reason, but anyway, I've still got a fair bit of it. I need to sell it at some point, and we'll see with that. I really, this is the thing I actually don't know, is whether to buy any more. I really don't know whether to buy more or not. I think I'll just have to assess at the time, so I don't know. From my place, okay, 2 each side of the mainland. Okay, so, well, I could go, if I'm at the bridge, I mean, it won't take very long to cross the bridge, so I could go to one side, see him, and go to the other. I do want to go to Anglesey again at some point, because the last time I went was before Christmas. I think maybe about six months ago. So it's literally it's 10 minutes that side, and I've not been in 6 months, but it is wonderful on Anglesey, absolutely wonderful. And so the last time we went to Rossniger, and it was wonderful. And me and my friend went to go and walk his dog, and we had a meal at the oyster catcher there, and oh my god, it's a lovely place, Rossniger. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's probably maybe it's a bit touristy. I don't know, but in the sense that tourists go, it's not touristy. Like, I don't mean that it's like Llandudno or something like. But I suppose that it's the place where tourists go. But I love it because you got all the dunes and the grass and everything. It's wonderful. Oh, could anyone tell me as well? Because since we've got a few people in, how is the stream doing? Is it okay? Because this is what I wanted to understand. Is there any sort of glitching or anything like that, or anything like that's happening? Because then it'll give me an idea on whether I need to change the bitrate or whatever other things I need to change, because I've completely forgot. Stream is good, okay. I always get this feeling because I don't know whether you can hear it. You probably will be able to. My laptop whirs. It's a really good laptop, but for some reason you do one thing like stream, and it whirs and it whirs. I mean, it's a really good laptop. Like, it's an incredible. The guy, I went in to get a SSD fitted in it, and the guy was like, "You've got the Ferrari of laptops," So it's like, it's a really good laptop, but it whirs. It does this whirring, and I don't like it. Have I learnt any Welsh? Well, here's one for you. If you've seen the vlogs, you'll know this because I say it every time in the vlog. I am learning French. I'm in Wales and I'm learning French. I mean, yeah, you know what? It's interesting you should say that, because I'm leaving Wales in about a month or two, and in the last 2 months, around the last 2 months, I have felt an overwhelming sense of leaving somewhere very special to me. And I'll have lived here for about 4 years at the end, maybe just shy of 4 years. And I think that's about the time where you start to slowly feel that a place is more like where you live, like where you are and stuff, where you reside. It's coming upon that time, you're getting almost to the 5-year mark, and things are feeling like that. So I felt like that, and what also came along with that feeling is, of course, like, where do I want to stay in Wales? Is that like after university? That's a very strong possibility. And do I and also things like the Welsh cropped up. Like, even just a couple of days ago, I was thinking, like, I've been here for this long and I've not learnt Welsh, and there is a bit of a, I don't know how to describe it, but it just feels as if maybe I would like to do, like, if I did stay, I suppose because I'm at university, there's still a sense of impermanence to it, but if I did stay, that would be something I would definitely do, because the way I look at my life is in like, I don't know how to describe it, but like, how the body evolves, or like how species evolve over time, and then they take on different attributes and characteristics and stuff like that, and those characteristics and attributes become a part of them, and that the changes to their physiology may even reflect or may even create psychological changes and things like that. Well, I look at my body as and my mind as evolving and taking on new attributes as I'm getting older and older and older. And so the place that I've been at for the longest will mean that I've assimilated collectively in terms of the culture and maybe biologically, because let's say if I purchase local Welsh foods and stuff, or eat mainly Welsh, things that are grown locally, even my physiology, my body takes on the environment. And so therefore, if I were to live in Wales long term, I would have spent over a number of years, I would start to have spent more time in Wales. I would have become more ingrained in the culture. I would have become more ingrained in perhaps the foods, and all of that sort of stuff. And in a sense, I would have become more of that than English, if you see what I mean. So it's like if someone was born in England and moves to France, or born in France and moves to England at a reasonably young age, maybe even still in their 20s or something like that. By the end of their life, they're more that than the other. And normally when you ask them that, when you say, what do you feel English or French, or do you feel, Turkish or whatever, and they'll say, oh, I feel the one that I live in now, but like for 50 years or so. The other one was when I was very young. I mean, I don't deny that was a part of me or anything, but that was when I was younger. And I've seen it on interviews that people say that. So that would be the case. If that was the truth. But there's many different things. Like I kind of alluded to it there, that it's a possibility to go to France. I adore this kind of attitude to food that the French have. I think that's absolutely wonderful. I mean, English culture, and I will make the distinction between English and Welsh, because anyone who lives in Wales will know that the Welsh spirit is very strong in a positive way. Not, I'm not meaning in a negative way of saying that word, but it's strong in a positive way, that it brings itself forth into the actuality of its own soul. It remains actualized in its own soul. I know that that's not been the case. I know that certain things in Wales have kind of certain traditional values in Wales have waned over time and come back up and stuff. But it feels like that's the case. Maybe the English spirit is, in some sense, covertly like that. Maybe that's why we had Brexit and stuff like that. I don't know. But you see, even then, it feels like the English spirit, and myself as a part of that, I suppose, is a bit more sort of like protesting in a kind of quite a mean way. I don't know. This is just my feelings on it. And I do think somewhat deeply about these. Well, as you can probably tell, I do think somewhat deeply about, but it is so. And getting back to that idea of Welshness, or the Welsh spirit, it's much more. How do I even describe this? Yes, the word to use is community. Obviously, that's the word to use in Wales, opposed to England or somewhere else. But there's a sort of sense about it. It's not just community, although that is massively there in Wales, but it's kind of a sort of natural unity, like a natural unity. And I mean natural in the word like natural, like nature, like a natural unity. And don't forget, I mean, where I am, this is the realm of, centuries upon centuries of mythology. This is a very, very deeply historical place. This is not somewhere that is unhistorical or doesn't have a history. Like, for example, America and Australia are still really developing in their sense of nationhood. Yeah, okay, Australia, it was like late 1700s, I think like 1790 or something like that. Or US, it was like 1620. But these places are still bringing forth and moving forth into the actuality of their being, into the full actuality of their being. But places like, where I am now, it's deeply rooted in history, and to kind of, as a kind of feeling of that, or as a perception of that, it's kind of made manifest in the culture, in the relation to nature, in the relation of people to one another, all that sort of stuff, in the slowness of life as well, all these kind of things. It's incredible. And it feels magical. That's a good word to use for Wales as well. It feels magical. And I'm not using that in a way that's like, sort of flippant, in a way that's unserious. I mean, it feels magical. You go into those forests and you feel like there's a fairy there, or you feel like, maybe not so much of the Arthurian stuff, although a bit of that. It depends where you are, I suppose. But definitely it has this sort of quality about it, this effective quality, this... it's almost like a spirit of the place. I think it's a genus loci or something like that. It's almost as if something like that would be there, would be in the woods, and you're going to meet them. It's almost like that. It feels like that. And so it's a brilliant place if anyone wants to write mythopoetic adventures or mythological stories or anything like that. It's absolutely wonderful. So it's that's my feelings on, I suppose, living here and kind of the real sense that I've got from it. And I've been really happy to see that in Wales, like to see the depth and the breadth of that stuff. It's incredible. And I absolutely love all of the nuances of different countries and the way in which their sort of soul, their collective soul, is blossomed over the years, over the centuries, and how it interacts with the environment and with the world and things like that. It's this is the real sad thing about all this modern world of maybe not too much technology, although that of course is intimately related to it anyway, but all this kind of, like I've said, like consumerism and stuff, and comfort and degeneration in that sense. Like in Australia they have all these incredibly wild animals, and if you're gonna relate to those in a way that sort of I don't know, has a sense of nature about it, and has a sense of you having your own particular relationship with those animals within the land, then of course, because there's so many wild animals there, you need to have a strong spirit, you need to have a strong sense of being with those creatures. And what we have now, in places like Australia or America or wherever, all over, is just people being very in comfort. They're not interacting with the creatures. They're not really getting up and going. They're not really being the full expression of what their land demands of them. That's it. They're not being the full expression of what the land demands of them. So why are people like bloody Steve Irwin? He's like, oh my God, he great, all that sort of stuff, because he was a manifestation of what the land demanded of him. I mean, maybe okay to an extreme degree, of course, but it's so that's what it's. If you live in a place, you have to be, and I'm guilty of not. I mean, God, I've got to say that I'm guilty of not doing this because I live in this culture. I live in it's all this consumerism, all that sort of. And by the way, I do want to make clear I'm not a Marxist. I am definitely not a Marxist, but I do not like how, for one, how capitalism creates a level of comfort within a species that's dangerous, but also I do not like how capitalism, what's the other thing? I don't know. It'll come back to me. But no, there are a couple of reasons why I don't really like. That was it. How capitalism also creates the proliferation of lower quality items in more abundance. If capitalism had a tendency toward creating better and better quality, although then this comes into the comfort thing, right? Because you say, well, if it had a tendency to create better and better quality, then we'd create things that are more and more easy to use, and then we'd get degeneration on a species level because we don't need to work to be able to do things anymore, which is kind of what we've got. But it would be better if capitalism didn't have all the lower end goods, all the cheap goods that aren't quality, but that are reinforced in society through the fact that there is still a market for those things and people will still buy them and therefore they still get produced. But it'd be better if all those things went and we only had a higher band of just more and more quality, just increasing. Now you could split that hierarchically, but what you would get is that you would get even the lowest item on that hierarchy, if you have a constant tendency toward perfection or a tendency toward better quality within capitalism, the lowest thing on that hierarchy would be the same as the highest thing on the current hierarchy. But then of course what you'd have to do is you'd have to find a way to manufacture that thing at a price that allows you to have it at a lower cost to the customer. So it's difficult, right? It's difficult, but it's all these things are horrible. You just constantly go round in your brain and you're like, why can't we fix this situation that we've got? Why can't we make it so that then everything's cool? But you can't do it. You can't fix it. It's like, what have you got? Communism, capitalism, what? It's like, I mean, I love selling and all that sort of stuff. I'm all for that. But I feel that since Marx, let me put it this way, since the whole Karl Marx thing, whole capitalism bad, all that sort of stuff, right, and since like the whole, oh my god, it takes away religious sentimentalism, and oh my god, it takes away the family dynamic, and oh my god, all that sort of stuff in the Communist Manifesto, right, that Marx is preaching, like, oh god, all that, right, fair enough. Maybe it does, and maybe it puts money at a more central place. But what I would say is, instead of scrapping the entire capitalist system, because what are you really going to do? You're going to go with your little band of rebels to overthrow the government, and then you're going to put everything in a nice little state where everything's state-run and all that, and what? All the Marxists they don't think that they're going to get overtaken by their own instinct for power, and then you're going to get some sort of weird dictatorial style thing anyway, because no, they don't believe in the instinct for power because they're all social constructivists, or half of them are, or whatever. But no, you would get that band of people who overthrow the government, and then they would just become corrupt, and then you'd get all that system. At least that's what I believe. So then what you have capitalism as adapted by some of the slight elements in Marxist theory, if possible. So you unify Marxist ideas with the current thing of capitalism, and then maybe get a little bit more perspective on it. Now that could be as simple, because how are you going to reinvent the wheel, or how are you going to put this stuff into capitalism in any efficient way? Probably you're not going to do that, but it could be as simple as gaining a higher emphasis within the capitalistic system on the ways in which it's unconscious of itself, in the fact that how does money, and how does our desire for money, or desire for living in that capitalistic system, how does that really influence some of the things that Marx was saying? Like, how does it get rid of this religious attitude, or whatever? How does it get rid of... And that was weird, because I read that. It was like Marx said something about capitalism getting rid of this religious attitude, or chivalrous values and all that. And I read somewhere that Marx wasn't exactly that religious, but anyway, I don't know. I'll have to look into it. But anyway... if we incorporate those values that Marx made capitalism aware of through basically analysing its unconscious to some degree, then we could maybe have a capitalistic system that is a little bit better, that is maybe a little bit more, well, you know, I hate to say it because I like Nietzsche, but a little bit more Christian, you know, in some sense, in the sense that it values the love of the individual, because, you know, Christianity is a religion of love, not as a religion of, oh my God, you know, you've got to do all these things, you know, you've got to follow the Ten Commandments, you've got to not sin, you know, all that sort of Old Testament sort of like oppressive kind of thing. But religion in the kind of way that Jesus understood it, of, you know, love everyone, do this, you know, enjoy, accept, all that, so that sort of stuff. So if you weave that into capitalism by making it conscious of that which it isn't conscious of, and making it a little bit less attached to money, maybe, or the individuals that are running the capitalistic systems a little bit less attached to money, and more focused on where it can overtake them and overtake their mind more through the instinct for power, and you sort of give them consciousness to angle themselves more at the expression of love and feeling for people and for families and for other areas of life, and, you know, chivalrous values and stuff like that, sort of within the capitalistic framework, but also when they're outside of it in just sort of life, like at the beach with the families or whatever, all that sort of stuff. Now, there is a limit to that, because you can only display chivalrous values within, or, you know, positive values within the capitalistic system to some degree. For example, you could make a lot of money, but you couldn't give every single cent you had away. So it limits the amount of good that you can do, because you still have to run a business, you still have to make profit. But what you can do if you run a business is you can choose to give a percent to charity. You could choose to give more to charity than you normally would, having been unconscious, if you were unconscious of Marx's opinions on capitalism. So once you become conscious of them, you can maybe become a bit more selfless in your way of dealing with capitalism, right? Or dealing with a business. So that would be good. And when you're also interacting with people within a capitalistic system, within, like, having a business, having a shop on the street or something like that, you could incorporate these more values that allow you to get outside of that just solely rigid capitalism perspective. I mean, it's interesting because there is a dovetail with Christianity here. Like, isn't that weird that you know, we can see that dovetail with Christianity? Like, that it does, you know, if you had that, or not spiritualism, but because that can have its own connotations, but just having a predisposition towards spirituality, or to a certain other religion or whatever, you know, Seva in Hinduism, you know, service and stuff like that. If you did that, maybe you could work that. So I have wonderful ideas, you know, after university for how to do a good business, and how to make it. You know, you could put it within. You could make a business through Marx's insights, and then through certain different ways of running the business. You could taking insights from psychology and everything, and religion and spirituality. You could make it so that then you can gain a expression by the end of your life of the imitatio Christi within the capitalistic system. How crazy is that, man? That's bloody mental. But anyway, yeah, I mean, yeah. Oh, the idea for Alice in Wonderland was born in Llandudno. That's why. Do you know why that is? That's why. No, you know, that's the wrong sentence. Wrong way round. That's why there's loads of those statues in Llandudno for Alice in Wonderland. And I never knew that. I thought we were just there. I thought we were just there. I've been there so many times, like, looking at those statues, like, oh yes, Alice in Wonderland in Llandudno, that's nice. Not even thinking that that's the place that it may have been written in God. Jesus, I honestly thought that was just... Like, I can't believe I didn't work that out. That is so like me as well, just not to be completely oblivious of these things. So that's crazy. Particularly Happy Valley in Llandudno. Particularly happy. You mean that Llandudno is a happy valley, or that isn't there a TV show called Happy Valley? Was that created in Llandudno? I don't know which way around you mean it, but you should look up singer David Iwan and the stuff that he's done for the Welsh people. Interesting. Okay, yeah, I will. I will. Oh, can I do it? Oh yeah, I can do that. Okay, I will whack it on my search anyway. No, there's a place called in Llandudno called Happy Valley near the start of the cable. Oh, the cable cars. Yeah, I know where that is. Well, I know where that area is. I don't know where. I don't know Happy Valley. No, I mean, you know, the thing with the problem with this idea of you know how I've been discussing about like nationhood and things like that, and the different ways in which interacting with the things within your own country, it's massively positive and it's massively inspirational and it's massively important to kind of have that sense about a particular area, particular soul. I would call it like the soul of the nation, right? Or in some sense like the spirit and the soul of the nation, but like sort of like that. That's massively important. But the other thing is, you know, there's problems with that as well. As we're seeing in the world at the moment, you know, creates division, it creates destruction, all that sort of stuff. And this leads us on to another point, really, is how do we have that? Let's say if you've got 200 countries in the world, how do we have that? How do we have that sense of nationhood, that sense of, you know, the soul of the nation, the soul of the place, the relation to the environment of the place, the culture, etc., all that sort of stuff. How do we have that, and how do we sort of champion that existence, but we don't get into conflict with other nations and things like that? Now, of course, that could be a relatively easy question to answer, because it's like, well, you know, you just focus on your place, your value, etc., and that's it, and then you respect the other nations and stuff like that. But if you consider like nations like people, you know, and maybe a nation's soul is like their personality, right, or something along those. You could make that analogy. Then of course, you know, you always meet someone. You don't know, you're at the pub, or you're doing something. For me, maybe university or something. You always meet people who it's like, oh, you know, there's some friction there, and then of course things spiral out, and because you're on the level of the nation rather than just the individual, it can over time mean that real conflicts start and things like that. So that's a really, really interesting philosophical question, or sort of like cultural question as well. Like how do we have that, and how do we respect that, but also how do we mean that, how do we get it that isn't taken to an extreme, that isn't taken to the sense of, you know, destruction and division and like you know, to a massive degree. And you also have to consider, how do you have that dynamically in relation to people entering the country from different countries, and how do those people relate to that cultural, not really cultural myth, but that kind of cultural way of being, shall we say. And, you know, so there's all these sort of questions that are very, very difficult to answer, and highly politically charged, and I don't think there is, a political view, like a left-wing or right-wing view, that is entirely correct. You can say, well, the left, just accept it all, but the problem with something like that is that then you break up any sense of cultural unity or cultural soul. So then it can go too far that way. Well, then you go to the right side of the bloody spectrum, and then it's like everyone's buggered. You're intolerant to anything. So it's like, how do you? I mean, that's why I always, whenever I consider politics, I'm always like, right, okay. So what's the right saying? What's the left saying? Well, let's consider maybe somewhere in the middle, and maybe that's sort of about right. Maybe it's not. Sometimes it's not. But because sometimes there's, let's say, an over tendency toward left wing, or sometimes there's an over tendency toward right wing, and so the centrist view might still be a bit skewed this way or skewed that way or whatever. But I always think like that. Now, there is the argument that you could say society has a tendency over time to become more liberal, because it's kind of like a drip feeding scenario where it's harder to cling on to views than it is for sort of new things to seep in, shall we say. That's probably the way to put it. So over if you look at like 100-year period, and the last 100 years is a good example of this, you can see that there's a tendency for society to become diluted by one side of the spectrum, but in a more covert way, right? So that would be therefore some rudimentary evidence that perhaps at certain times the system could have a tendency toward one view. Now maybe that's left, or maybe that's right. Maybe that's not fixed. I don't know. Maybe that's fixed. Maybe it's always a tendency toward left wing. I don't know. Or maybe it's a tendency toward right wing at certain times. But it seems to me like, particularly, I mean, you consider the sex thing, right? So there might have been many, many people for the last 100 years who wanted sex to be not as open and free as it is, right? And there may have been, over the last 100 years, instances of that kind of being pushed back a little bit. And no doubt there will have been that in the 70s with the whole sexual revolution and the porn coming in from different countries and all that kind of things. But what we've found is that sexual expression and the variety of sexual fetish and sexual, all that sort of stuff, has become slowly over years and years and years, have become sort of more and more just naturally accepted in society through this drip feeding in of different things that have happened, and small little things in small little ways, from going right down to the fine micro expression of just little words that have come out of people's mouth that influence someone toward a more sort of inclusive tendency, shall we say. And because it goes right down to that, and then you get a society that tends toward more of this way than that. And that's a really interesting perspective. Now, that's really bad. And that goes back to, interestingly, the 1940s and 1950s with, 1930s, 1940s, I should say, with the Media Studies group, and particularly the Columbia School with Lazarsfeld and Herzog and Merton, and Lazarsfeld, I think it was in particular, did research on positive propaganda. And he showed how if you want to sort of get a society to a certain way of being, you can't just introduce things massively and say, everybody accept this. It won't work like that. You have to drip feed it in. You maybe do, or maybe there are certain events that happen like that are bigger, but you drip feed it in like that over time. And then the tendency of the population, behaviourally, psychologically, etc., culturally, goes in that direction without anyone really caring or knowing, or So and people maybe put up a little bit of resistance here and there, but it doesn't work. It always goes in that tendency. Now, if it is possible that one political element, a left or right or whatever, has that tendency, that's ingrained in just the nature of culture and politics and things, then what we see is a really bad situation, because let's say you've got a right-wing politician in, let's say, but that you're in a situation where the society is unconsciously or been drip-fed in some sense this liberal tendency, then you're not actually in a right-wing society, you're in a left-wing society. Or if we want to flip it round, if you've got a left-wing government, but somehow it's the other way, because I don't know, it might be that way round instead. You've got right-wing ideas, and that's been drip-fed into the society, and people haven't really been aware of it and stuff. But then you've got a left-wing government in. It's not really a left-wing society. You see, it's only an illusion. That political party being in power is just an illusion, but actually it's not that way, so it's really interesting. Really interesting. Rocky Horror Picture Show is a good example of being who you want to be. Why? Who am I trying? I'm not trying to be anyone. I'm trying to be myself. I don't want to be someone else. I'm comfortable with who I am. I like being who I am. Well, maybe comfortable is a bit of a stretch. I mean, God, give me another 30 or 40 years. I mean, Jesus, I'm only 20 odd. But, that's me saying I'm only 20 odd, because if I say 20 odd, you see, you might think I'm like 24 instead of 28. So it's like I get a few points knocked off. But, no, I'm only 20 odd. So, no, give me a bit of time, but no, I'm comfortable. I want to be who I am. I want to be who I am. No, I'm not anyone else. So, yeah. But so it's wonderful, isn't it, when you consider like all these different things of the possibilities of society and culture and things like cultural memory. Well, I don't know whether actually it's better to say collective memory in this state, because there is a conceptual distinction between collective memory and cultural memory. I think collective memory... No, actually, I'm going to get it wrong, so I won't say it, because otherwise, if I get it wrong, it's no help to anyone, is it? But there is a distinction between those two. But it is interesting how these things play, and how these things could possibly sway a culture and move in certain directions and have certain tendencies. Personally, with regards to politics and government and all that sort of stuff, I actually don't believe that there's really a good way of doing it. I know that sounds crazy. I mean, and I know you can do it, because obviously we exist in a culture that has government, but I don't think we've ever really been like great at it, or it's been a like really efficient system. And so I think, I don't know, I feel like we're still waiting upon a better system in some sense. I think we're still... You can't go one way because it's too much one way, like authoritarian in the right way. You can't go too liberal, because then there'll be things that happen. You can't go too liberal in a way that's authoritarian, then things happen. So it's like what you do, It's like... No, I mean, as in, it's a good film to show that should be who you want to be. Oh, right. Right. Yeah. Well, there you go. Anyway, I did just think of the time then. It's probably... I've not checked the time. It's... Oh, God, yeah. We've been on over an hour and... Almost an hour and a half. So I'm going to wrap it up now. I will do another live stream at some point. It was very nice to catch up with a few of the regulars who have been in. Really nice to see Shazad and BCP and Yasmin and all those people. So I will leave it there. And I think there's a video coming out. Yeah, there's a video coming out tomorrow. What time is just a construct? Well, yeah, I mean, if that's a whole other rabbit hole. We won't go into that one, because, God, that's a... Yeah, it is and it isn't in some regard, but yeah, that's a whole other rabbit hole to go down. So we won't do that, but I might do that another day. So if I do that another day, then we could have a topic on time. I mean, God, that'd really stretch my mind, because we'd have to go into like quantum physics and stuff. I would have to consider like how, let's say, time interacts in quantum entangled states and stuff. You know, it'd be mental. Time is a construct, but I'll leave you with it. Time is a construct in the way that we've made it. Yeah, definitely. In the way that, you know, like a clock or a I don't. Yeah, well, a clock is a good, like, just a clock is a construct of time. But other than that, it's really complex and it's really difficult. Yeah, see, now you got me thinking. It's annoying because now my brain goes and I'm like, yeah, well, how does this relate to that concept, and how does this relate to the concept, you know, the conceptual units of time, and how does this relate to our understanding of memory and time, and, you know, it all goes off in here. So I have to, I'm going to have to stop. But I will leave it there. Thank you very much for watching, for those of you who joined, and I will be back for another stream at some point soon. So yeah, see you very soon, guys, and thank you very much for joining.